What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla in the overall market. I want to break down why Tesla's looking quite bullish, although we do need some confirmation for this move to continue to go higher. I'm going to break down what's happening with Tesla's news that just came out and what President Trump just said. That's very important. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. Deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. Not to mention 8.1% APY in uninvested cash. The offer ends on June 3rd. So as far as Tesla's going, I just want to mention that we got this quadruple bottom like we talked about yesterday, and we're slowly trying to make a higher low rate here as Tesla's holding its 50 EMA. The setup is looking more bullish as it has the potential to launch Tesla towards at least 320 a share, as there's lots of confluence there with us not only approaching some key EMAs, but simultaneously we have previous support becoming resistance right at that level. Looking at the daily chart, we also have potential to get up towards those highs, and I think we're doing a very, very good job so far. So overall, we're looking quite bullish, but whether or not Tesla gets a bigger breakout to really see the 320s depends on some factors. It's going to depend on what happens with the tariff policy and whether or not we get some kind of break. So for now, I do like the fact that Tesla's attempting to make higher lows here, the fact that we're breaking structure right here, which looks bullish, but I would like to see us hold above 300 and get more bullish news for this thing to continue. This may depend on what President Trump and his team end up saying about the Chinese tariffs and their different policies. That's why I want to break down some updates first, and I'll talk about the chart in more detail. So there's some news that came out that Tesla is canceling its Cybertruck range extender, which was set for mid 2025. The optional battery pack would have extended the distance it could drive before needing to be recharged. It would cost about $16,000. It's more of an accessory for the vehicle. But unfortunately, it looks like that this is going to be canceled according to reports, at least so far. This would have helped them reach over like 470 plus thousand miles in range, which would be pretty awesome. For other variants, it would be around 445 miles, and we have 415 in total as well for many others. But if anything, reports are now saying that although this would have helped a lot of their drivers in a lot of different ways, this ended up not happening because it looks like this is going to be canceled. At least that's what's being reported so far. So keep that in mind. We're seeing lots of headlines about this for the time being. There's also been a lot of news about how Tesla's been unveiling its affordable Model Y, which is a small electric SUV. Very, very awesome news about it is the fact that it's going to cost around like $44,990 before incentives. And then if you do get those federal EV tax incentives, it goes down to about $37,490. But those are not guaranteed to last forever, so please keep that in mind. But overall, it offers smoother rides, an all-new interior, and a new redesigned look. So very, very awesome stuff for them. Hopefully this helps their sales in the US especially. Now, despite the bad headlines coming out for Tesla about how their Chinese sales were lackluster, even the European sales, Tesla is still very resilient and it does have more upside potential. But at this point, what's really affecting us is China. Some good news came out for Tesla, especially because of the fact that in China, the central banks have actually cut rates by about 10 basis points. They're also trying to stimulate their economies with more stimulus. And then as a result of these high tariffs, which are affecting their economies, not only are they becoming more inclined to cut, but they now want to negotiate with the US, which is why I think we just had our Treasury Secretary going to Geneva, Switzerland to negotiate with many Chinese officials. There's also been more news about how, although President Trump did raise tariffs to around 145%, depending on the product, that would be like the cap. Now he's talking about the possibility of decreasing that to about 80%. So that got a lot of investors excited. However, simultaneously, he did say that he wants to increase some tariffs on pharmaceuticals. Also, he wants to keep the 10% baseline tariffs. So those are like mixed pieces of news, at least so far. Now, looking at my notes over here, we have some quotes that came out from President Trump according to his transcript. President Trump said that we were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China. Now we're essentially not doing business with China. Therefore, we're saving hundreds of billions of dollars. It's very simple. President Trump just said that today. He also mentioned that when asked about tariffs, if there's going to be a tough time for Americans, President Trump responded and he said that it's just going to be a transition period and that everything is going to be okay. When asked about the economy, President Trump also mentioned that we were losing $5 to $6 billion a day under the previous administration, and now he got the numbers right. So That's all I'm going to really say about the tariffs besides this one last point. There's very mixed news right now. There's been some negative news about how he wants to keep the 10% baseline tariff, about how President Trump and his team want to essentially increase some tariffs on some goods again. And then there's been more talks about the negative economic effects of these decisions, at least during this transition period that President Trump is talking about. But the good news is that the US is negotiating with India, Japan, and many different countries. And then when it comes to China, there's been some talks going on over the weekend, which got Tesla very excited. And we'll see if that leads to even more upside if we get some updates. We're still going to wait and see, especially going into tomorrow. President Trump usually gives us more updates by Sunday. So I'll keep you guys updated until then. But basically, what I want to see is, can Tesla hold above this 320 area? So looking at the chart, I'm going to zoom in a little bit when I do this. Okay. We have a potential breakout out of this flag over here. We were talking about this in my previous videos, how Tesla had this flag that was forming, right? It kind of looked like this. And we're bullish. This looks quite bullish, at least so far. Now, there's a wick here. If we do come down to like 295 to 292, we need to bounce and continue to push for 300. We need to see this thing hold above 300. If we hold this, whether it's because of some news involving Tesla, or if there's some kind of like China deal, whatever it is, it could launch us up towards that 320 area. That's going to be this previous support becoming resistance. And I do think this is an area of confluence for Tesla. Now, if we're bearish, okay, if we get some bad news, you want to see Tesla re-enter this overall structure, and then it could be dipping down, but I don't find that to be very likely. I think the more likely possibilities we try to go higher, judging by the fact that the 4 hour is looking quite good as buyers are stepping in. The daily is looking a lot better as well. We broke structure also above our 200 EMA, but I need to see this continue to uptrend. We need to see a bullish continuation above 300. And then the weekly time frame is also looking a bit more bullish on Tesla. So this typically suggests that we might be trying to fill some imbalances. And this would actually suggest our next target might be closer to like 325. So it has potential, guys. There's a lot of potential if we break that 300 mark, but I can't make promises if we truly do that, because we have to wait and see what happens with the whole tariffs with China, what President Trump announces, what catalysts come out for Tesla. But nonetheless, the chart does look more bullish. If you want to be bearish, you want to see us essentially lose 285. If that fails us, yes, we could turn back down. But for the time being, we are technically favoring the upwards direction. For SPY, we are looking a little bit more bullish. We could try to go close to like 575 to 580, but I do want to warn everyone to be careful, because even if Tesla and SPY all push together, SPY does have a bearish divergence forming. And I do want to note two small possibilities. So, if we go a bit higher for this like 575 to 580 area, yes, that would be awesome and all. But then if we get some kind of rejection off the bearish divergence, we're going to be looking to see if we're forming kind of like an inverse head and shoulders like this on SPY. If we're more bearish, though, don't forget there's also a gap to fill at 520. So even if this doesn't hold 544, then I do expect like 520. Then we'll see if we bounce off that. So as of right now, these are the two most likely possibilities. Could we go to new lows? We could if we get a recession or some kind of new catalyst to dump us. We just don't have the catalyst yet. So as of right now, these are stronger possibilities. I do think SPY could go a bit higher, so could Tesla and the others, but then there might be a pullback period coming to SPY in the QQQ. That does not mean that Tesla has to dump yet. We have to just wait and see what happens with the news. For the QQQ, there's like a left shoulder here, a head, then we have like a right shoulder, and then this could also lead to more upside if that ends up panning out. And then simultaneously, if we don't bounce off 466, we could be dumping back down towards like the 400 and the 450 area, or a little bit below that, to fill our gap. And then we could be looking for a bounce around there. So we're going to be looking for moves like this to potentially form on the QQQ. We could be making new lows if we end up seeing a bad piece of news. But as of right now, I'm not really seeing that. So we just have to wait and see. We have the same setup on ES, essentially. The problem with ES is just like SPY and the QQQ, there is this bearish divergence and declining volume as there's a lot of chop forming. We haven't broken resistance, but we're still forming structure like this. So we'll see if we're forming some kind of like inverse head and shoulders here. If we go a bit higher, then come back down. So we'll see how this ends up going. If we could get a bounce like this on ES, or if we dip a little bit more to fill this gap that's all the way down towards like 5,300 before we make an attempt to rebound. We'll be watching to see how this ends up going. Those are your two main possibilities. New lows could come if we get bad news. We're waiting to see how that goes. Same thing with NQ. Also, we have this inverse head and shoulders like pattern. We'll see if we end up coming down soon. We might push a bit higher towards like 20,400 to 20,500. Then we'll see if we turn down towards the 19,500s. If not, as low as where this gap is around the 18,300s. It all depends on this tariff news. So that could have an effect on Tesla, but I just want to say we're not going to worry about like 10 steps ahead. We're going to take it one or two steps at a time. So as far as Tesla is going, we're looking quite good. We're holding up very, very nicely. So we could try to continue to push above 300 if that holds. I could be looking for an attempt for 320. And then we'll see if Tesla rejects off that or not. Can Tesla kind of like turn from there for a temporary pullback move? We'll have to see about that. But I'm not going to try to get too ahead of myself. I just need confirmation to see if it could hold 300 to push a bit higher. The news involving China could help this if we get some good news. So we'll see if Tesla comes down to 292, bounces, and then eventually tries to break above 300. I'll be watching for a move like that for us to try to get back up to 320. We have to be very patient with this, so give it some time. But nonetheless, there is upside potential. We'll see if we reject off this to come back down, but I just want to say Tesla's looking quite strong here and it does have upside potential. I'll keep you guys updated on any updates involving what's happening with the tariffs between the US and China. So keep that in mind. For now, the next step is likely going to be upside if we get that break above 300. There is potential for that, but it depends on some factors. And then the last thing is going to be even the market does look somewhat bullish for now. We could still see spike at close to like 575 to 580. The QQQ could be retesting 494 to 500, but then we'll see if the market rejects off that. Tesla could still outperform the market and push higher, but then we'll see how it goes. So my update for right now is that the market is still decent. Tesla's still looking bullish. There is still potential in this. And then if I do see a little pullback off this wick, we'll see if we try to get back above 300 to hold that and eventually start pushing higher. There is potential for that, but then we'll see how it goes with all this news. So we'll see what President Trump says tomorrow involving his tariffs. He might give us some updates on his Truth Social page, and we'll see if he gives us anything really, really big. We're going to be patient, and we'll see how things end up going. Otherwise, I thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Have a good one, and peace out.